My name's Mike Bertleson, and I build and sell the world's coolest fire pit and grill. I'm a Brigham City kid who moved to Washington, D.C., and I ended up living on the grounds at Mount Vernon, which was really cool, as you might guess, and gave me access to all things colonial. Big fire, big pieces of steel, colonial cooking, and I was doing so much entertaining, I started thinking, how can I make something that's portable, beautiful, functions as a great cooking device, and is nice enough to entertain lots of people around. The coolest thing is that they're both a perfect cooking device, but they're also the greatest fire pit ever. These things are made of super thick, solid pressed steel, and they get really warm, and it radiates heat out. So when you're sitting down, you can get your feet right up underneath it, and it'll throw an enormous ring of heat, much, much more than a ground fire would. They're totally portable. People take them skiing all the time. I have one guy who last weekend put one of these small ones in a canoe, paddled it up the Potomac River 2.5 miles, and held a party for 14 people. I think that's pretty cool. This weighs about 75 pounds, the basin. So it's not that bad. I mean, one guy can easily lift it up, and these travel in the back of my wife's Audi. The bigger ones, that's sort of a different deal. The large one's called the Ranch Boss. It weighs 236 pounds, the basin does, and it's a 2-guy lift for sure. These basins are solid 1/4-inch steel. The legs are industrial steel that have been powder coated, and a cauldron should last, I'm guessing, with even the modicum of care, 2 or 3 generations. So I fully expect people's great-grandchildren to be fighting over cauldrons years and years after their original purchasers are scarce remembered. Probably 80% of the fires that get built in cauldrons are just party fires. You know, if I had a nickel for every beer that's been consumed around a cauldron, you'd find me via the Marseille Marine operator. And then for people like me who really like to cook, they're just fabulous. So the other 20% of the time is people doing a lot of really what I think is interesting experimental cooking now. I've got this guy Dennis in Virginia. He was doing a Brunswick stew, which is a real classic Southern dish. He's from Tennessee. Had 20 chickens and I think a couple of dozen squirrels as a base. So, and he actually cooked that in the base. Because of the parabolic shape, you've got heat radiating upwards from the bottom but also from the sides, so it makes Dutch oven cooking just painfully easy. One of the other things that's really cool about the Cowboy Cauldron is this grill. It's super strong, it's lightweight. I can stand on this almost. It will never bend, it'll never sag. You can put giant stock pots on there. Really anything you want, half a lamb or just a piece of chicken for dinner. But you also have total access to the grills on either side. You have really precise heat control when you're cooking because there's always a place to move stuff to where it's hot enough but not too hot. And so they're really a dream to cook on that way. One of the funnest things for me about this project, particularly having a background as a lawyer, is now I get to meet so many interesting people, smart, interesting people from so many walks of life. So local blacksmiths who take a straight piece of stock steel, heat them up in a coal forge, pound them out over an anvil with hammers, and put these beautiful filigrees and curls. They're also bomb-proof. A guy who designed the spit for me is a Persian man. I have an Argentinian metalwright who helps me make these cauldrons. Steel design shops who machine cut things for me. I have a furniture maker who's making a line of tongs and spatulas for me. All kinds of craftsmen and artists. It's really been great. They're so evocative of history. You know, there's not a real specific era, but they're just redolent of witches or all things medieval or frontier, or the lines go really, really well with contemporary architecture, and they're just very sleek and stark. There's no reason to suffer through cauldron envy.